Hello, everybody. As Lorna said, today we're going to look about making a wreath with our dried flowers. Now, you may not have dried flowers, or maybe you've kept some from last year. But if you haven't, then you can look at the trellis YouTube videos, and Lorna's going to give you the link to that, where I've done a session on how to dry flowers. It's September now, so this is probably the best moment to do it if you haven't done it yet. You can hang them up somewhere nice and dry, pick them in the morning, hang them up, dry them. It takes about 2 weeks for the flowers to dry, and then you'll have a nice selection, hopefully, of seed heads and dried flowers to make your wreath. So I'm going ahead with the flowers that actually I dried 2 years ago. I've wrapped them up in white paper, white tissue paper, as you can see here, and put them in a drawer or put them in a box and kept them. So they've lasted for 2 years, which is fantastic because it means you can then bring them out and use them for different things. So what I want to do is just talk about the wreath as a starting point. What I have on my table here is a wreath that I bought from the range. You can buy it online, you can buy it from different places. And this cost £2.99, so it's fairly cheap. It's made of a grapevine stems, which have been wrapped round and then fixed on with wire, just florist's wire. So that's great if you find it difficult to be able to make a wreath or find the materials. But I'm just going to quickly show you how you can make one, albeit not quite as beautiful as this neat one that I bought. But nevertheless, you can do one at home or on your table with your people in your group. So this is one that I started today. You can see it's a little bit ungainly, but it's only the start. So what I've done is I've gone into the garden or gone into wherever you have a space where you are able to prune out some stems. And I've felt for the best stems that are just slightly still bendy. If you leave it too late in the year, the stems will harden and then it's really quite difficult to bend them. So I've looked for, first of all, I looked for honeysuckle stems because obviously they're quite long. But also I cut some stems from a prunus, from a flowering cherry, young stems, which are still flexible. Now, if it may look untidy at the moment, I can snip off the untidy bits after I've finished making it and I can kind of see what's the best ones to use. But first of all, if you pick stems at this time of year, they're going to have leaves on them, aren't they? Because it's natural for them to do so. The leaves haven't fallen yet. So put on a pair of gloves or get your members to do that. And it's an easy way of getting rid of them. You could pick every leaf off individually, and you may have people in your group who like doing that kind of thing. Otherwise, literally, you get hold of it and you just pull. And there you go, the leaves are off. And then you can just tidy up with any leaves that are still there or any bits that are broken. And you've got a nice clear stem to use. So this stem is quite nice and bendy. Is it bendy all the way down the end? It's not bad. As it gets towards the harder, bigger end, it's perhaps a little bit difficult to use, but most of it is quite nice and flexible, and that's what we want. And so I'm going to bend that round, and I could use florist's wire, horticultural wire, to hold it in place, or I can just use twine, because the idea of this sort of a wreath is that it's quite natural looking, and we're going to be using twine or raffia to tie in flowers anyway, so it wouldn't look unnatural if you saw a little bit of twine, especially this coloured twine. Green twine might show up too much, but this natural coloured twine, which you can easily buy in rolls like this, won't be intrusive. So when I started, I just bent it round as far as I could, round and round, and held it in place there. And even if you have, as I say, a sticky out bit, don't worry, you can trim that off at the end. So I wound it, tied it round. I started off with a bit of wire because that holds it quite strongly. But twine would do. It's probably helpful if you do this in pairs because one person can hold it, the other person can be winding whatever material you use to hold it in place. So once I'd done that, I began to get more and more stems and just kind of wind them into place because once you've got a few in, you've got kind of gaps that you can push through. So you're not going to need quite as much twine. So you can bend it, but if you find you can't bend it easily without breaking it, then just wind it round as best you can. If it breaks a bit, don't worry, it's going to get hidden by tying other things on. So I just sort of bend it through and then get, as I say, my bit of material and just wind it round tightly to hold it in place. And you could, if you want, if you're concerned that it might loosen up, is actually wind it the whole way round and then tie it off, and that will really hold it in place. So you can make that from anything free that you can cut out of your garden and so on. You really only stop winding stems round once you think you've reached a thick enough dimension. Probably a couple of centimetres, an inch wide would do, but it can be as big or as small as you like, really. But I'm going to show you how we tie on the flowers to make an attractive wreath on the one that I bought because it's a little more sturdy as I haven't finished this one. So we've got our nice wreath that we've either made or we've bought. This one's still got its label on, and I've left it on because I want to know where is going to be the top of my wreath that I'll hang up on the wall or on a door. If you haven't got a label and you've made a homemade one, you could just tie a piece of coloured ribbon on top, and then that shows you that's the top of your wreath, so you know kind of which way it's going to go down. So I'm now going to put some flowers on this. I'm not going to make it like a Christmas wreath where you tend to put berries and flowers and leaves all the way around. You could if you like, but it's quite nice to do it so you actually have a bit of bare wreath and you just have some nice dried flowers in one section. So that's what I'm going to do, but obviously it's up to you how you like doing it. So what I've done, as I said, I've collected together the flowers that I have previously dried, or you're going to do this year, and I'm going to put them, unwrap them, then just put them in groups so I know what I've got. I've got some poppy heads here. I've got some achillea, flat-headed flowers, which have got a slightly nice purpley colour, even though they're started off white. I've got some yellow ones here too. I'm trying to get a range of different colours so it doesn't all look brown. Okay, so some flowers, that's Persicaria, which has full stems, which has sort of gone quite a nice dark red colour. So to have a mixture is what we really want. And I've got ready some cut twine, so I don't have to keep cutting it off all the way through, ready to make my little bunches of flowers. So that's what I'm going to do next. I've done some. I've made these little bunches of dried flowers so that I can then tie the bunches onto my wreath. I'm not going to put them on individually, the flowers. Where the flowers are smaller, I'm going to make a nice little arrangement. So I've got, in this one, I've got the orange of, forgotten the name, it'll come back to me, Nigella heads, which is Love in the Mist, again some achillea. So different colours together are nice. So you just tie them up into a little bunch, which looks attractive. And I've made a couple of those, so I'm going to put them on here with some darker flowers and some, again, a few Nigella heads as well. It's calendula, this orange one, sorry. Finally got to me, marjoram, another, not marjoram. Now, occasionally I might use a single flower as well. So where it's bigger, so these are yellow Achilles are slightly bigger. In fact, some of them are quite big. So I could use one of those individually. So I'm going to just place the bunches onto my wreath, and I'm going to have them going in one direction. So I've made the little bunches, and I'm going to just sort of arrange them so the stems are up this end and the flowers are going in that direction. Gives it the whole wreath a sort of rhythm, if you like. Then what I think might be nice is having an individual one of yellow, which gives it a bit of brightness as well. So I'm just going to arrange them. And the other thing I thought I'd use, which I made 2 years ago, is this lovely dark beech leaves, which I dried using glycerin. And that, again, we talk about in the other YouTube sessions. It leaves them preserved. So you can buy glycerin, vegetable glycerin, online, and you mix it with hot water and you put them in. So it's a slightly different method of drying. But what it means is they go to a rather nice sort of rusty brown colour and they stay whole. So I think I might take some of these. That's a very big stem, so I'm just going to snip out some of these smaller parts of it. And see, I need to use my secateurs for this. Scissors will work on something, but not this. There we are. Nip off a slightly damaged one. I don't want them to look damaged. And see if I can't also use that as quite a nice dark base to show off the lighter colours of the dried flowers. So I'll just take one or two of my little bits of twine, and I'm just going to wind that round these nice dark beech leaves and just tie it on securely. Again, might be good for people to do in pairs, with one person holding the flowers and the leaves in place while the other one ties. And you can tidy up any loose ends when you've finished. So I'm going to tie that in 2 places. So you can see you don't have to be really, really tidy. You just have to be inventive, because the fun is what seed heads go together, what dried flowers have got nice colours. If you pick your flowers to dry early in the morning, they will keep their colours better than if you wait until they're getting a bit old and later in the day when the sun's been on them. So that's the best way to do it. I think I am going to snip those ends off because I'm going to put my little bunches on top. Well, I'm just going to snip that off. And then I'm going to put on my nice little bunches that I've already made, tying in each one with another piece of twine. And again, if the stems are too long, you can just snip them off at the end. And then these are very subtle colours for autumn, which I think is rather nice. If you wanted to brighten up your wreath, you could use coloured ribbon to tie it on. So if you were doing something, say, for Halloween or Harvest Festival or something like that, perhaps you could use some orange ribbon, which would give the wreath a bit of bright colour, as you probably do in the winter for Christmas wreath as well. So let's tie that on as well. That's a nice bright bit of yellow. There, I'm going to wind it around the stem just to hold it in place and then put it on. And I think maybe the leaves should have gone in the other direction. Maybe I should have had them pointing down. That would have been good, wouldn't it? But this is all experimental. So you learn by doing it and by seeing how it works and what looks good. You can't really buy, I don't know, I haven't seen dried flowers, or you actually can buy them online, but you have to buy quite a lot. So if you really felt you hadn't got any flowers, and you needed to buy them, well, you can online. I haven't seen them actually in shops because obviously they're fragile. But I think that if you have any, let's snip the end off, nice flowers in your garden, you could certainly dry them. And as I say, it's only 2 weeks, so it wouldn't take too long for you to be in a position to be able to do this. There we go, there's another one. So there's a little bit of orange in that. There's a little bit of purpley colours, which are rather lovely. And I can't do it with gloves, I'm going to take gloves off. Yeah, that's better. Now, I could go on as much as I wanted to make more little bunches on this and cover more of it if I think that's what I want to do. So that choice is really up to you. I'll show you how we make the bunches in a minute. Another flower that I kept the seed head of rather than drying was this, if you can see, allium head, which has got a lovely shape. Now that might be quite nice to stick out as a more large flower on that, or a large shape, and it just gives another bit of shape. Of course, you could, with some of these dried flowers like the allium head or like poppy heads, is paint them so they're colourful. So if you felt you had too much that was browny in colour, why not get some acrylic paints or something simple and let people paint them in nice colours and then tie them on, and that will bring another colour with it. So the thing is, when you're doing your little bunches of flowers, is to choose different shapes. I've got, as I said, some persicaria, some achillea, which looks rather nice. I've also got some nice feathery stems from pampas grass too. So there's lots of shapes in different shapes that you can put together. So that could come round a bit more so that you can see that the wreath will be covered a little more. So that's the way you do it with a wreath. If you decide maybe this is a little too difficult for some of your members, maybe what you could do is just make some nice flower arrangements in jars. So what you can do is keep the long stems on your dried flowers, get a nice jar, and just think about how could you create a nice arrangement. And in this case, some of these bigger headed achilleas might look rather nice there. But again, I suggest you make the arrangement on the tabletop first, because dried flowers can get quite entangled and then you can lose some of the flower head and so on. So you might want to think, well, I'd like that. I'd like a bit of purple in there, and that nice allium stem would look good behind, and the poppies and the purple together. So you could make a little hand-tied, as it were, arrangement, tie it round with your twine so it stays together. And then, of course, this arrangement is going to last forever, really, or as long as it doesn't get too dusty and too old. Snip off some of the bottom if you think some of the stems are too long. Flip them off, and then you can put it into a nice jar of your choice or a vase of your choice. There we go, we can sneak them in there. And then you can have a lovely arrangement that isn't as difficult, and you don't have to be so dexterous as doing the wreath. The wreath is lovely. Some of your members might like that. Some of your members might like just putting things together and thinking about how nice they could make an arrangement when it's quite difficult to have fresh flowers all year round. And these could be put in, there's some, again, nice YouTube things of decorating vases, old glass vases, and then you could, with dried flowers, and then you can stick these into it, and that could be a present for someone. So